Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development Consulting. Before we move into today's lesson, let's make sure we're on the same page. We've seen firsthand how much more is required to provide authentic leadership to a team than simply managing based on the authority that comes with a position or title. What we've personally learned through more than 50 years of combined leadership responsibility is that taking the extra steps to serve people and earn influence will always produce results that barking orders never will. And if you'll stick with us to the end of the episode, we'll share how you can get a complimentary trial to our resource that we've built that's nothing like anything else you've ever seen. With that in mind, let's get to work. This episode continues in the series on what's killing your profitability, and we're going to look at how education and application are two very different things on the idea of how does having the right prescription make an impact. Once we've come to terms with the fact that our organization is almost certainly leaving money on the table, the most natural response that I've seen from so many people, and it's also the most frequent response, especially with business owners or executives, is to really jump right into identifying exactly what those things are that are killing their profit and taking swift action to implement some type of cure. And gosh, this is the normal approach, but it's not necessarily the right approach. Make no mistake, it's a rare occasion where someone today can say, gosh, I just don't have access to all the information I need. And gosh, that's never going to be a valid excuse at this point. If anything, most of us in forms like these cell phones, we carry around more information in our pockets through our cell phones than a generation ago we had access to in any given week, month, or year, right? So it's all at our fingertips. And there's certainly no shortage of people who are willing to say, here's my opinion on this or that or the other. The key, though, to achieving the results that we're really after, especially when it comes to stopping the bleeding, so to speak, where profit's concerned, I believe, lies in determining what the true causes are that are really driving the issues that we're facing. And sometimes that can be harder than we think. So here's a scenario. I learned to change oil in a car before I ever had a driver's license. And I'm absolutely certain that I could still do it today. Now, I might swear a little bit more, make more of a mess, but 3 decades later, I can still do it, okay? But there's not a scenario that exists that I'm going to crawl in a stone in our driveway and reach up under it and burn myself and get oil all over myself. I'm just not going to, right? And let's be honest, when there's something going on an electrical panel, I could probably flip the right breaker and I could take the outlet cover off. And if it's a bad outlet, a ground fault outlet or something like that, probably change it. And just a few years ago, Cindy and I had our roof replaced, and I didn't mind climbing the ladder and hopping on the roof. I've been around that since I was 12, 13 years old. I could do those things. But none of those cases does it make sense for me today to try to do it all by myself. Nor am I willing to trust just anybody to do it for me. The primary value that I've gotten in each of those cases from having folks that are experts in their field do each of those things for me isn't just in me avoiding the physical labor of it. Quite frankly, I could make a strong case for saying I need more of that physical labor because I'm tied to the desk a lot. The real juice from the squeeze in each one of those things is having that trained eye of an expert really perform each task and be able to recognize any other potential issues that might be related to those tasks, whether it be right away or even months or years down the road. That same thing holds true for having a strong relationship with, say, a family physician who might know and should know our medical history and understand who we are. Gosh, we could probably run into a doc in a box or some type of urgent care facility anytime, let them poke, prod, pay them the right money, and we'll walk out with a piece of paper with some 15-syllable thing that we have no earthly idea it is, but it'll treat the symptom that we've told them we have. Challenge is it might not play well with our other meds, pre-existing conditions. Now, if it's the right prescription you're after, just like if I want the roof or the electricity stuff done right, we do well to see somebody who really knows and is really an expert in their field. Now, I'm sharing all this to say I found an article in Inc.com. It was called The Number One Cause of Business Failure, and it listed it as team failures are usually a result of leadership failures. It opened by stating that Bad leadership destroys engagement, raises stress levels, reduces morale, and ultimately leads to failures that can kill business. Near the end of that same article, the author emphasized things rarely fail because of technology or natural complexity. No, they fail because the teams are not engaged, inspired, or empowered. Now, if we want, as leaders, to have even the slightest chance of getting the right prescription for what's killing our profitability or potentially killing our entire business, would it make any sense at all to trust that to anyone without proven experience in achieving the results we're after? Gosh, I'm not looking for somebody that can't change oil to change more oil. An expert didn't have folks that didn't know how to replace a roof to do a roof, and so on and so on and so on. Now, in a conversation not so long ago with a really, really good friend, he asked me if I knew what they called the person that graduated dead last in their class in medical school. And I immediately replied, well, of course I know. He graduated, I don't care where he's at, and we still call him doctor. Here's the thing. Having the certificate on the wall that says he's a doctor doesn't necessarily mean it's the one that's going to deliver good results, right? In March of 2000, I'm a 23-year-old kid. I'm running a 250-ton stamping press. I'm a carpenter on the side. At that point in time, I applied for and somehow was offered a position implementing what was at that point in time the latest and greatest lean manufacturing initiative that the company I worked for was pushing down from the corporate office. And I'd been working in some capacity in my working career at that point for about 10 years. And gosh, I took a more than a fair amount of pride in being able to outwork most people that were around. And gosh, I'd done reasonably well through high school in spite of refusing to take a book home after the first semester of my freshman year. And I'd only lightly hit college with a stick, and I stress lightly. Now, like a ton of awesome folks that I've known over the years, though, that work ethic played a significant role for me being offered that position. Challenge was that I had almost no preparation whatsoever for what I was going to be expected to do once I accepted that position. And oh, by the way, that was only the first challenge that I ran into. Now, in addition to being far less than prepared with whatever requisite skills that the interview panel thought I actually had, my primary responsibility in that role would be getting the coworkers that I just for the last 4 years had worked directly side by side with to change the way they had done their work for years. Now, not only did many of them have more years of experience doing that work than I had on the planet, my position carried zero authority, and the process that I was working to implement, it hadn't gotten a whole lot of support from the facility supervisors or managers. It was kind of one of those corporate things that we had at that case, it was one engineer that was overseeing it. And I'm not going to pretend like we had a lot of buy-in across the facility, but it didn't change the fact that I was still expected to get results, right? Now, if I were to tell you that I was in over my head, would be a very, very wild understatement, right? Now, no big deal, though. It was only a job. What's it matter? Well, where it really mattered was my first day on the job actually happened to be the first day back from our honeymoon. So, yeah, not much pressure there, right? I had a new family to take care of, and there was these responsibilities. And oh, by the way, I'm not prepared. All that said, I was still expected to get those results, not just results in how things looked. Those results had better show up through increased productivity and profitability overall through the facility, or at least the part of the facility I had responsibility for. That forced, at that point in my life, to devour every single resource that I could get my hands on that would help me communicate more, help me earn influence with those folks that I needed that buy-in from, and eventually lead that particular initiative in a way that achieved some positive results. And that really set the tone for what became the next 2 decades of my career. Now, since then, Cindy and I have invested a fortune, literally fortune, into the tools and mentorship that we've needed to learn to lead more effectively. And a large part of that investment was at times where we had very little left over after paying the mortgage and for greedy things like food and healthcare for kids and things like that. But just like I had to in my first training position, when we were in that financial state where we didn't have a lot of money to invest, we were always looking for how do we make sure anything that we do here or there, we get strong return on investment. How can we use it and not just check a box, right? Now, earlier, I mentioned that guy who was dead last in his medical school class. He's still called a doctor. While that's an accurate statement, my guess is that you're not going to be any more excited about seeing him than I would. And quite honestly, I'm not sure I would. Our concerns would likely be based on whether or not he's qualified, he's capable of providing the results we need, right? We're not looking for a doctor that scraped by. We're looking for one that was good. Does he have the ability or the experience to deliver it? Not sure. If we want to have any real hope of identifying and really addressing those issues that I believe so often kill our business's profitability, we do well to ask those same questions as we're looking for who we're trusting to guide us and give us those resources. Are those individuals or those resources that we're dependent on, they capable of providing measurable results? Gosh, as a quick side, just in a recent conversation we're having with two managers in a large local company, they made a comment about, hey, we've got a small line in our budget and we can do this and that. And I said, okay, we can work with that. But here's what I want to challenge you to look at. When we can drive return on investment, we need to track it, because I think if we can see, hey, this is no longer a budget item, an expense, but we're driving return. If I can give you $10 back for every dollar you give me, I think it now becomes, I don't have to get the CFO's approval. I have to say, how fast can I give you dollar bills so you can give me tens back? And as they said that, they said, gosh, we've not heard consultants or trainers in some of the things we're talking with you guys, we've never heard somebody paint it that way. And I said, well, shame on who you've been talking to, because that's absolutely what our job is. Now, the question really becomes is, does that person have a proven track record of yielding a measurable return on investment? Well, if they're not talking about it, I guess it's no. Or do they just have a certificate on their wall saying, gosh, they're allowed to talk about this or that? Now, and I'm going to be frank and say, if I hadn't been able to deliver measurable results in the last 15 years or so that I worked in manufacturing, I would not have worked in manufacturing, because I wouldn't have had a job anymore. That was just the stance the manager that I reported to had taken. I had no choice but to develop a very clear understanding of the difference between education and application. And difference is what I've seen drive those measurable results in the areas that are far too often and far too many people are written off as saying, hey, they're intangible, they're touchy-feely. Now, before we really work through some of those incredibly specific steps that we can take to capture that lost profitability in the key areas of our business, I think we need to have a clear understanding of what application really needs to look like. So as I started calling your attention to the whole idea of what's killing your profitability, explained how important it's been for me to develop that crystal clear picture of the results that I'm working to achieve as I take action on any new skill that I learn. And quite frankly, I can't point to many things that have given me results that are even close to that. It's something that I just cherish, that experience. Now, but that's not what I was referring to when I emphasized that we need to have a clear understanding of what application looks like. If we really want to address the leadership issues that I promise you are killing our profits, any old approach won't do. Over the last, 25 years, I've read more books, attended more trainings, I've done more conferences, workshops, and flat out studied leadership and how it impacts human behavior or overall performance as much as anybody that I know. And I've also gotten licensed in that process with some of the largest leadership development resource organizations on the planet. And that doesn't even touch the tools that I've used in training teams on the whole behavior-based safety methodology across North America. The one thing, though, that I've learned through all of it is something that I'm going to share right now with you with absolute certainty. Results almost never come from simply reading information. Measurable results from being provided with they come from being provided with a practical approach to take an action on that information. Without that practical approach, the information alone doesn't always do the trick. Now, in a world where we're flooded with coaches of this and consultants on that, and many of whom I'm going to say, I'm bluntly, can't hit their ass with either hand, there's no magic potion for capturing that lost profitability. Anybody that suggests that making the necessary changes to eliminate those losses will be easy, likely going to lie to you about other things too. Quite frankly here, changing our behavior is hard. But take my word. Don't take my word for it being hard. Ask anybody that's ever tried to quit smoking or drinking. Is it hard? Is changing your behavior? Is developing new habits, changing old bad habits and making new ones, is it easy? And that answer is no. You know what else is hard though? Watching our bottom line continue to suffer because we didn't have the tools that are really necessary to make and sustain those changes. I want you to consider it this way. Let's say you're starting a gym membership. So many people do that. Let's say it's January 1 and we're dead set on dropping 30 pounds and you're looking to hire a personal trainer. Which one would you choose? There's often in most gyms, there's often this little skinny fellow that's running around and he just passed his personal trainer test. He's got this fancy certificate and he's ready to train you. But he's about as big around as Binky. He might weigh 130 pounds and he's 6'2", and you're kind of like, gosh, how'd you get in here? You're not big enough to push the door open. But there's also this one person that's teaching the aerobics classes and jumping up and down and gosh, maybe they're 50 or 60 pounds overweight, but they're saying, hey, do what I do. And you're thinking, well, I'm not sure. But as you look around, you see this guy that's over there. He's 50 years old. He's a car mechanic, but he looks like he should be on the cover of some muscle magazine. I'm not gonna speak for everyone here. I know I don't, but I can promise you that I wouldn't even ask that mechanic if he was licensed as a trainer. Truth be told, that's exactly what I did. And that's exactly how it unfolded for me. I remember the faces to this day when I was 21 years old. And I learned about nutrition and muscle development in a few short months working out with that car mechanic that I'd learned from reading magazines and other people who didn't know what they were doing in the 5 years leading up to it. I'd been studying and I'd been working out since I was about 16 years old at that point. And that guy, he didn't teach me theory. He didn't teach me something he learned in a class or read in a book. He taught me what he had done personally. I saw the visible results in what he had done in himself. So I thought, gosh, I can trust him. I know he's genuine. I've been around coaches, consultants, and trainers who've had absolutely no hands-on experience flying what they were spouting off about. At best, many of them had read it in a book or they'd heard somebody else talk about it and they'd learned how to regurgitate it themselves. And my guess is right now, you're picturing the faces of a few of them that you've dealt with right now too. I'm sure you're picturing some. I've never considered myself. And Cindy would make the same statement, certainly about me, but probably about herself too. We're not the smartest people in the room, but we have indeed worked incredibly hard to learn from our experiences, and we've invested a ton of time and resources into developing strong relationships. Hear me with this, with great mentors who can help us get even more value out of those experiences. I've found that the best results come when we keep things simple, and simplicity doesn't come from theory that we read from a book. It only comes from practical experience. Now, if you'll hang with through each of the topics as we unpack that we're going to unpack moving forward, not all in this lesson, but in the things we do, I can promise you that you're going to find some simple steps to really apply that you can apply that are going to address the things that I think you're killing so much profitability in businesses today. And it will be based on what Cindy and I have experienced personally, what we've been able to help other people really do and take action on in their organizations. Thanks for listening to the Leading at the Next Level podcast. Next time, we'll pick up where we left off by digging into the impact of leadership on organizational performance. We'll put some hard numbers to this so you can really capture it in your bottom line. Now, if you'd like to go deeper into anything that we've shared here, or you need continuing education credit for a professional credential, send us an email at admin@dove-development.net, and we'll be happy to hook you up with a 45-day all-access trial to our complete Leading at the Next Level program at no cost. This full program includes access to well over 100 hours of digital lessons, complete with slides and action-based assessments to help you capture measurable bottom-line improvements in your organization, and 2 live lessons each month with Q&A so we can help you identify the specific actions that you want to take to lead your team more effectively.